All right, all right, all right, all right. We're back here at Song of the Day, coming to you from the Rock Cave as usual. Today is Thursday, May 28th. I'm off on my days all week this week because of the holiday and COVID and all that stuff. Even at work, I don't know what day it is. And so yesterday was actually Wednesday, and I totally forgot to do my artist or song you never heard of. So we missed that chance. I was going to do it today, but had something else in mind for today. So we'll get back to that next week. Sorry you missed it. Plenty of stuff coming your way on those days. But today, May 28th, two things happened to the same person. First of all, John Fogerty is 75 years old today. And secondly, they released their debut album on his birthday. Same in 68, 68, 67, something like that. Anyway, everyone knows John Fogerty. Everyone knows Creedence Clearwater Revival. Let's get to it. He's 75 years old, born in Berkeley, California, one of five sons. Grew up on the West Coast. Same old story, musical kid. In, I think, grade middle school, he formed a band. His brother Tom was in a band. John in junior high school, he formed a band called the Blue Velvets, which included Stu Cook and Doug Clifford, who would be in Creedence Clearwater Revival, called CCR. And then his brother joins the band at that point. They get a record deal in '64 with Fantasy Records, and they actually put out like a handful of singles, but didn't go anywhere. And then somewhere along the way, Fantasy Records decides to change their name, or maybe they did right off the bat, actually. They changed their name from the Blue Velvets to the Gollywogs. Gollywogs is a terrible name for a band, but they didn't know what was going to happen, and it did, and they went with Gollywogs, and maybe that's why they didn't sell any records. John gets drafted, and then he goes into the Army Reserves, and he's in the Army Reserves from 66 to 68. In that time, the Gollywogs put out an album without him, and that didn't go anywhere either. He comes back, and they start recording again, and they change their name to Creedence Clearwater Revival, which is a mixture of names that they came up with. So they released their debut album in 68. Basically, Creedence's whole career spans, it spans 68 to 72, but the biggest portion of their career is 68 to 70, a 2-year career where they just explode with all these great songs. I mean, think about that for a minute. They were really only around huge for 2 to 3 years, and that was it. They played Woodstock in 69. It's just incredible that we know all of those songs, and it was just a 2-year thing, So, so they play around, they're 70, 71. So here's the deal. John Fogerty takes over the lead singer from singing from his brother, Tom, and is the primary songwriter, lead guitar player, and singer of the band. So it's the same old story. This happens in the history of rock and roll. How many times have we heard this story? The guy that's doing that says, you know what? I'm the one with creative control. I wrote all the songs. I arranged all the music. I record the stuff by myself. This is all my stuff. You guys are just playing with me. So I think I should have more control over the band. I think I should be the one that makes the bigger decisions, all this stuff. So, of course, that just caused a lot of problems with the band, especially his brother. And eventually it just gets so bad that Tom leaves the band in 71. And then they're playing without him. And by the time they get to 72, they're trying to put out a record, and the two remaining band members are kind of struggling. And so finally he says, all right, you guys can have equal contributions to singing and writing and all that stuff. And they put out this record, Mardi Gras, in 72. And it did have 2 hits they call them hits, but I don't remember the songs. But anyway, not the ones that you and I know. And it got terrible reviews, but did pretty good commercially. And at that point, they basically were like done. The band was like, we can't do this, and they broke up. What I remember, as far as the stories of them, is their ongoing legal battles after that. I mean, they basically right off the bat, There were lawsuits everywhere. It turns out that they thought that John Fogerty had signed the worst record deal in the history of all record deals, and they really weren't getting much in the way of money, and they were pretty pissed about that. And this guy at Fantasy Records, what was his name? Saul, what was it? Saul Zantz? Well, anyway, so this guy basically, they're suing each other back and forth for rights to the songs. John Fogerty owes Fantasy Records 8 albums when they break up. I mean, that's just an insane amount. He's trying to negotiate his way out of this, and he just can't. So he finally gets David Geffen, who had his own label, to pay $1 million to Fantasy Records to get out. And he signs all control of all of his written material to Fantasy Records. I mean, he had no rights to any of his music. And he was so bitter about it. Everyone was bitter about it. He even got sued later on for his solo album, which I'll tell you about in a second. I mean, it went on for decades. I mean, it was like it was hard to even get CDs by them, I think, because it was only on this one Fantasy Records, and they were kind of late to the game. But they made a ton of money just circulating greatest hits of CCR. I mean, there were so many greatest hits and live albums. It's crazy. I mean, they just kept putting them out, and it was just like printing money, you know. So the other members kind of they reformed later on as Creedence Clearwater Revisited. But John Fogerty starts his solo career pretty early, puts out one album for David Geffen. That doesn't really go anywhere. And then later on, in '85, he puts out Centerfield, which is a huge hit. We all remember that from high school, the title track and The Old Man Down the Road. Everyone recognized his voice, and it was great. There was a little problem. He got sued by this guy, Saul, who said that his song Old Man Down the Road was basically the exact same song as Run Through the Jungle, which he had the rights to. He lost that in court. I think he went to the Supreme Court, and Saul lost and John Fogerty won on that one. But he also settled him for defamation because of 2 of his songs on that album. One was called Mr. Greed, which was about him, and one was called Zantz Can't Dance. And he had to kind of settle out of court on that one, and he changed it to Vance Can't Dance. Anyway, John Fogerty would not play any Creedence songs in his concerts. So when he was touring for that huge album, that was a big chance for him, but he refused to play any Creedence, and the fans were really annoyed by this. He claimed it was because he'd have to pay royalties to Fantasy Records, but I don't know if that's true or not. If you play something live, whether you have to pay royalties. But anyway, by the time he gets to '87, he's on stage at the Palomino Club in California, and Bob Dylan and George Harrison come up on stage, and they're kind of kidding with him and saying, dude, you got to play a song, you got to play Proud Mary, just because if you don't, everyone's going to think it's a Tina Turner song for all of history. So for the first time ever, he plays a single Creedence song with them. He didn't really play any more of that until much later when he came back with a tour. The 4 members of the band only played once together ever after that. It broke up in '72, and that was at Tom's wedding in 1980. They played for 45 minutes. The 3/4 of the band played without Tom Fogerty at their 20th high school reunion. How cool would that have been to be at your reunion if that was the case? No such luck here. He puts out a ton of solo albums, a handful. He put out Centerfield, and then he put out what do you got? Eye of the Zombie in '86, and then in '97 he put out Blue Moon Swamp, which I think won a Grammy. Anyway, in 2004, this Zantz guy, he sold the company back to another Concord Records, but out of goodwill, he decided to increase the royalties for everybody for the songs, and he gave the songs back to John Fogerty. And John Fogerty saw that this guy was no longer involved with this new record company, so he signed a deal with them, and then eventually starting his own label. So that's pretty cool. That guy, Saul, he actually went on to to produce, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Amadeus, and The English Patient. So anyway, that's the story with that. What else we got? So that's Creedence. I mean, I grew up listening to it on the radio, obviously, classic rock. In my household, everyone knows that. I mean, there's only a couple songs of theirs that I would probably change the station on just because they were too long. I don't need to hear the 9-minute version of Heard It Through the Grapevine, that's for sure. That's probably the one that I probably don't need to hear. But let's run through it. We got Proud Mary, Bad Moon Rising, Who'll Stop the Rain, Traveling Man, Down on the Corner, Fortunate Son, great song. I Put a Spell on You, love that version. Up Around the Bend, Run Through the Jungle, great song. Good Golly Miss Molly, remake. Green River, Heard It Through the Grapevine, Lodi. What else we got? Down on the Corner. Oh, that's a good one. Down on the Corner. Who'll Stop the Rain? Have you ever seen the rain? A lot of rain. A lot of rain in the bayou. Anyway, so for Song of the Day, I really had to think about it. I had to narrow it down. It was either Down on the Corner or Green River. Those are the two songs that was for me that I would come up with. And then I really thought about it, and I actually gave them both a listen. And it has to be Green River. Great song. I totally love that song. So that's going to be the Song of the Day. And that's our story. So enjoy your Thursday. We'll be back here tomorrow. You know what tomorrow is. And have a great day. And you know what? We'll see you on the flip side.